What's up, crypto land? I'm Justin and I'm here at beautiful Venice Beach making a video on Leap Day. That's right, February 29th, which happens every 4 years, just like the Bitcoin halvening. So what better time to break out my shiny Bitcoin shirt and break it all down with you, as well as talk about ARK inflation. All that's happening right now on ARK Adventures. Let's get it. Yes, what's up and welcome to the channel. If you are new, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell to enable notifications. Set the notifications to all. You'll get beautiful videos just like this that teach you all kinds of things about cryptocurrency, mainly ARK, which is a great crypto project that I work for. But in this video, we're going to talk about Bitcoin halvening because it is Leap Day and the Bitcoin halvening does happen every 4 years. I'm sure you already know what Bitcoin is in general. After all, if you didn't know what it was, then you probably wouldn't be here watching this video right now. We know that Bitcoin is created with proof of work, where a bunch of computers all around the world are solving complex computational problems in order to arrive at an answer, and that correct answer awards that computer with the ability to add a block to the blockchain and get the block reward. Now, the thing about the block reward is that it goes down every so often and it gets less and less over time. Bitcoin will do it halvening every 4 years. The last one was 2016, and before that was 2012, and the next halvening is coming up this year, 2020, sometime in May. Now, it's actually not tied to a specific day, it's actually tied to a specific block height. So the Bitcoin blockchain creates new blocks every 10 minutes, and the halvening occurs every certain number of blocks. And I can't specifically remember the number of blocks, so I'll just throw it up in big text right here. Now, when that number of blocks hits, then the number of new Bitcoins that are awarded to the computer that finds that correct answer cuts in half. Prior to the 2020 halvening, which is coming up, the current Bitcoin reward is 12.5 Bitcoins. So every 10 minutes, 12.5 Bitcoins enter the system. Now, what's going to happen in 2020 is that the Bitcoins that are awarded to the miners will be cut in half, which will bring that number from 12.5 down to 6.25. What this means is that the new Bitcoins entering the system will become twice as rare. There's been a lot of speculation and opinions about what that means in terms of the economics of the network or media coverage for Bitcoin. A lot of YouTube channels are starting to talk about this now, the Bitcoin halvening, what's going to happen. There's also a lot of speculation that's happening right now about the price of Bitcoin, whether it will go up due to the supply shock of less Bitcoin entering the network, or whether it will go down for some other reason. In a nutshell, that's what's going on with Bitcoin and the halvening. This is just kind of a top-down approach on what the Bitcoin halving is and how it relates to the network. But I also wanted to talk to you about the ARK inflation and how ARK enters the system with newly minted coins. So let's talk about that a little bit right now. Okay, so now I'm on the actual beach, which is funny because this is usually the closest that any Los Angelino ever gets to the actual ocean itself. It's like this weird thing that I don't really get, where we all go to the beach, but almost none of us actually goes into the ocean, like ever. I'll never figure it out, but I digress. So at this point, we've established that every 10 minutes, 12.5 Bitcoins enters the system, and this May is the next halving where the number of Bitcoins entering the system will cut in half down to 6.25 Bitcoins. Now, this will continue until the year approximately the year of 2140, when the last Bitcoin enters the system and the total supply of Bitcoins will sit at around 21 million. So once the number of Bitcoins gets to 21 million, that's it. No more Bitcoins will enter the system, and the computers that are running the network will have to get funds by way of the transaction fees only, which are paid every time somebody sends a transaction on the network. Now, ARK is different from this. The first thing I want you to know about ARK is that the public network is much leaner and faster than Bitcoin. So It's actually faster to send funds with ARK than with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's block times are 10 minutes, as I mentioned, and ARK's block times are much faster, 8 seconds. So funds go from here to there much quicker. Also, the fees are much lower on the ARK public network than on Bitcoin. And in most cases right now, it's like 99% lower fees, which is great. But the way that ARK enters the system is it's 2 ARK every 8 seconds. Now, the ARK public network uses a different consensus mechanism than proof of work, which is what I mentioned earlier for Bitcoin. It uses delegated proof of stake. Now, I think I'll have to make a separate video about the consensus mechanisms and how they differ. So be sure to subscribe if you have forgotten to do that, and hit the bell to enable notifications to get more content. But in a nutshell, it's 2 ARK every 8 seconds compared to Bitcoin's 12.5 every 10 minutes. Now, another difference with ARK is that it happens always. So it's going to be 2 ARK every 8 seconds for infinity. So that makes ARK an inflationary asset compared to Bitcoin's deflationary asset. Once it reaches 21 million, there's no more that's created and that's it. Now, some people that I talk to about this will say, wait a minute, so I'm into cryptocurrency, so I'm already aware of the concept of inflation bad. So why is ARK good if ARK is inflationary? Well, there's a couple of key things that I need to talk to you about why it's a little different than something like fiat inflation. The main thing that I want to touch on is that with ARK inflation, it can't be manipulated. So the inflation is always going to be the same, and unless the majority of the delegates on the network agree to change the inflation, which is possible but unlikely, it's going to stay that same amount no matter what. If you're like a government and you're like, hey, I want to change the inflation rate just because we need to get more money for these various programs or whatever, then the government can just like decide to, talk to the central bank and be like, yo, we need to make more US dollars, and then they make more. So that means that you'll get like wildly differing inflation rates for various years. I think that if you look at the chart, you'll remember like during the oil crisis, for example, the US dollar inflation rate hit double digits for multiple years, which is not good. But with ARK, it's a consistently declining inflation rate in terms of percentages each year. So it's always approaching zero. This helps to limit and remove some of the downsides of inflation that people bring up when discussing fiat currencies. Not only that, but there are some good aspects to inflation too. Namely, inflation promotes the spending of the coin. Now, if we want to get to mass adoption, we need to have a lot of usage of the network where people are spending and exchanging the asset for goods and services, and inflation helps that happen. So there's more information about ARK inflation in a presentation that I put together a very long time ago, way before I even joined the ARK team. You can check that presentation out in the links in the description below, and we're all having a good time. Well, Bitcoin having ARK inflation, now you know. Thanks for watching this video, and subscribe and hit the bell for more. If you didn't know, we've got a podcast going with new episodes every Friday at podcast.ark.io. Catch you on the next one.